The Tar Heel defense has fallen off the cliff a little bit in the past 3 games. What level of alert are we at? 1 to 10. Let's ask Coach Rob.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, January 17th, 2026. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day, all part of the Locked On Network, now the #1 sports podcast network out there. Thanks for making us your first listener watch to kick off this weekend the right way, baby. Special shout out to all you everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course our insiders as well. It's great to be together. This episode's brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. Visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. Coming up on the show today, our good buddy Coach Bill Robinson is with us, head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes and a 2-decade veteran of Carolina Basketball School, Carolina's summer basketball camp. He's also written a great book about that. Coincidentally enough, not coincidence, I guess, really written by the same title, Carolina Basketball School. I left mine in my backpack, so I don't have it to show you, but there it is. Coach Rob's holding it up for those of you looking. Make sure you hop onto Amazon, get your copy of the book, or if you want a signed copy, you can email Coach and he will get you hooked up. And that'll be great, man. If you haven't checked out that book, you need to right now. All right, here's what Coach and I are going to talk about today. We've had all this kind of 3-game skid in a way. Carolina won one of them. Yes, I know, but it sure didn't feel like they won that Wake Forest game. And so we want to get a coach's perspective on it. What level of high alert is it? How do we process this? Should we be where are we at? Coach Rob's going to try to provide some insight and balance into that. But also, we got to look ahead because tomorrow, Carolina's got another game in California. So we'll get the Four Corners preview of this Cal game, and then we'll get to know Cal a little bit in the last segment. Talk about what do you do when you're just hanging out in no Cal for a couple days in between these games. Coach, let's get right into this. I said it in the cold open. I'd love to hear from you on a scale of 1 to 10. What is your level of alert right now? And not specifically the defense, not specifically guard play or anything, just in totality, as you see what Carolina has done in these past 3 games, where are you at on that scale?
Yeah, scale 1 to 10, I'm at an 8 right now. I'm concerned. I really am. And we're 14-3. I get it. That's great. I think it's not the end of the world, but it's not just the losing, it's how the losing has come about. And obviously, there's been quite a shift in the defense or lack of defense in the last few games. We had a game Wednesday night. I didn't get a chance to see the game live. Watched everything on Synergy the next day, where I go through and watch every possession. I can fast forward, rewind the whole thing. So I just broke down all 16 threes and find out why are they open? How are they getting these? And it was a mixture of a little bit of transition, a little bit of inability to defend ball screens, but the ones that bothered me were the ones where we just kind of had guys that just kind of lost their man, and just the lack of intensity, the lack of urgency, just to be able to see their man and know what's going on. And a couple of those were Caleb Wilson, and that's where you start to is he starting to wear down? Is he starting to the physicality of the game and all the pressure that he's had offensively to be able to score as much? Is he taking possessions off at the defensive end? Did not see that in the first half of the season. Seeing a little bit more of it now. Luka had a couple possessions where he just kind of would wander a little bit and not defend ball screens very well. The transition bothers me too, because that's something that's got to be a heavy part. That's day one for us. Defensive philosophy is we have to work on defensive transition. We have a group really struggling with it right now too, but they're young kids, and it's something that I think that's part of why Carolina's struggling too. That defensive transition's just not been as good as it was earlier in the year.
Okay, so what that leads me to think as a curious person is, I guess it's a 2-part question then, Coach. A, how do you pinpoint that and fix it? But kind of B off of that is, can you fix it? Or is it just patching holes at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think what you emphasize is what the guys want to do. So situationally, they gave up 24 points in the first 14 minutes on Wednesday night. At a media timeout, say, hey, this has been great. We need to keep this up, because they end up giving up 21 points in the next 6 minutes. So you're sitting there going, there was some kind of drop off there, and why? And did we not emphasize it enough? Are we tired? Did something change? I didn't see anything philosophically change. I didn't see a scheme change between man or zone, or everything was still the same. But is it the bench? Is there a drop off when guys are coming in? What happened between that 6 minute mark that changed things? And I think those are things that can be fixed. You can fix how you defend ball screens. You can fix that defensive transition and make sure that there's, guys transitioning to players, not to spots, and they're finding people on the perimeter, and they're not giving up penetration. But I even thought Seth Trimble's defense was not where it usually is, and I know that was surprising too. He lost a couple guys, had a couple guys penetrate on him, which means now help comes, the extra pass, and guys are getting open looks. And so I don't think it was one guy. I think it was a group of guys. And is the West Coast that much of a difference? Out there, they're Division I athletes, they're young kids. There's really no excuse. You got to be able to defend regardless of what day, what time zone. It doesn't really matter. You need to be able to defend.
If you were to say, like with Seth and with the guards, coach, because you look at what the guards have given up. Carolina got blitzed by 3 straight lead guards, both SMU a couple Saturdays ago, Wake this past Saturday, and then obviously Ibuka Okore on Wednesday night against Stanford. And so, it's both. That's been happening from a scoring standpoint and a playmaking standpoint, where those 3 guards have had what I put it all. I think it was 30 assists and 6 turnovers in that 3-game stretch, coach, a 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And they've combined. I mean, it's insane what the guards have been allowing. Is that an issue? I feel like every second comment on our YouTube page right now it's because Carolina is switching everything 1 through 5. Well, sure, that might be some of it, but there's also, Coach Davis talked about they were throwing all sorts of defenses at Okore against Stanford. So as you try to look at what these opposing guards have done to Carolina, is there anything you can pinpoint as a through line that has led to that?
It's concerning when you have 3 guards all scored 20 plus and one scored 36. They scored 76 of their 95 points came from 3 guys, and they're all guards. That there's a guard problem. There is. And I think with Seth, it's something, it's not physical. I think it may be mental. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. He didn't look like he was, slower, or it just seemed like he was not fully engaged mentally. And those are things that you can motivate certain different ways to be able to get on him. But he's a senior. I don't think you need to sit him. I think you need to just sit, hey, you're our guy. We need you to step up. We need you to stop this. This is now a trend. We've had this 3 straight games. We need you to be the guy that everybody expects you to be. And maybe it's a Jarin Stevenson thing, where we can put a little bit of size and length. And size and length has always bothered guards, especially smaller guards. Corey they're just great. He had a great game. He's very smart. He was very crafty around the rim. And the more that, he slashed, then people back up, then all of a sudden he's knocking down shots too. It's just he played great, and you have to give him credit. But at the same time, there's got to be some kind of system to keep the ball out of his hands when he gets hot like that.
You said your scale is on an 8 right now from a 1 to 10. That would be like, as we talk to the fan base, would you sound that same level of alarm to the team? Like, if you're Hubert Davis, would you say, hey, I'm at an 8? Or because there's this, like, how do you let them know how critical things are without completely ruining morale where they throw in the towel? Does that make sense? Like, hey, we're on high alert, but we got to keep going. How do you find that balance as a coach?
In the locker room, it's a 10 right now. Hey, this has got to stop right now. We're at the end, what you want to call it, the bottom. We're hit rock bottom defensively with how we're defending right now in the guards, and something has got to change. And I think Seth's the start of that. But after that, who's going to step up to really be able to to make a difference. Jaydon Young's obviously gotten more time lately. Is he somebody that can, with fresh legs, that hasn't played 1,000 minutes already this season? Is that an answer? Jonathan Powell with his length. Again, Jarin coming back down and playing smaller positions. There's answers there, and that's why it's an 8. There's still a lot of hope. It's not like this is there's still a lot of talent. There's still a lot of size. There's still a lot of answers there. Conversation I had with the coach the other day in a similar situation. I said, you'll figure it out. And I really believe this coaching staff will figure it out. It does take time, and you have to figure out how to motivate those new young kids. I know it's halfway through the season, but there's still time where you have to figure out what makes them tick. But Seth's the key. Seth's the guy that, he's the guy that's been there. He's done that. You guys know him well enough. You should be able to motivate him in a way that he's got to step up his game both ends of the floor.
All right, so maybe Seth is the linchpin that we will watch Saturday as Carolina moves from Maples Pavilion to Haas Pavilion to take on the Cal Golden Bears. We'll have the Four Corners preview for that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, the college football playoff is here. The national championship is Monday night, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of these CFP playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them right in the app. Here's what I love. You can use that profit boost on all the bets you feel good about. Maybe you want to roll with Indiana as the favorite. You think they control the matchup? Great. Maybe you think Miami is it and you want to take a shot on the underdog. You feel that upset coming. Maybe you can build a parlay around the players or the moments that you believe are going to turn the tide of the national championship game. Do that, and then you apply the profit boost to go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, the good news is that FanDuel pays out instantly. The line for the national championship right now, Indiana -8.5. Boy, I cannot believe that line. Hoosiers football school. Crazy stuff. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. Thanks for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or watch of the day. Thanks for making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network. And if you're truly all in with this thing, we'd love to invite you to join the Everydayers Club, a brand new opportunity that Locked On is offering you. There's 2 different tiers for it of how in-depth you want to go. Check it out. That link is in the show notes. It's time for the Four Corners preview. Carolina at Cal on Saturday. Coach, why don't you kick us off with the first thing we're watching for?
Yeah, I think my first thing is just the defensive intensity. I love numbers. I love looking at the numbers. And one of my favorite numbers to look at to see how a team is doing is defensive field goal percentage. And Carolina was sub 40% a few weeks ago, and I haven't seen it totally updated. But just looking at the Stanford game last night, 57% from the floor, both halves. Obviously, 57% for the game, too. That's just not acceptable. And it just seemed like the defensive intensity was very inconsistent. It would be good for 5 or 10 minutes, and then it would be bad. Then it would be good. Then it would be bad. That's not what great teams do. And that's the biggest thing for me, I think, right now is the offense. Obviously, you got 2 of the most special, front court players in the country. But defensively, something's got to pick back up.
It's funny, Coach, that you utilize that because, yeah, the 3-point, what Carolina has given up lately has just been ungood. And that actually is going to take me to Four Corners preview point number 2, because we know that Carolina in non-conference play in those 13 games gave up double-digit 3-pointers just twice in those 13 games. Literally all 4 ACC games, they've given up double-digit 3-pointers, 12, 14, 14, and 16 against Stanford, and a high for the Hubert Davis era. Well, here's the good news. Oh, no, it's the bad news. Cal is a good 3-point shooting team, Coach, 36.1% on the season. That's 76th in the nation. And so, right back to it. Carolina has to figure out how to stay locked in with all that defensive stuff you were talking about earlier, with not just floating around like you're in outer space looking for something to do. These guys have to stay locked into their man. You can't help too much. You got to stay connected, and all of this, Coach, they've got to be able to stay locked in on their men and be able to stop Cal from going off from 3 like Carolina's last 4 opponents have done. That's Four Corners preview point number 2. Coach, what's the third one?
My third one is just winning time. It's making plays when you need to make them. And my college coach Bill Harris used to say, good to great. You have to get that one stop. We need that one stop. You need to get that one bucket. We need to get that one bucket. And it seemed like at Stanford, 3 late turnovers. It seemed like every time they needed a bucket, they didn't even get a shot. And that's a really bad sign. It's not like they missed a shot. They didn't even get a shot.
Get one. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that's what worries me right now. It's situational. It's something you should work and practice every day. I mean, that's something, even if it's just little games, little 2-minute games, but working on how to win when you need to win.
And there's another breath in which we say they shouldn't have even been in that position either against Stanford or Wake Forest, coach, that they had those leads. And so I've got a kind of twofold follow-up question to that point. We've seen double-digit leads now leak away against both Wake and Stanford in back-to-back games. Obviously, Carolina held on against Wake by the skin of their teeth and weren't able to do that because of what you just laid out against Stanford. Coach, how, Coach Davis addressed it earlier in the week before the Stanford game. We got to put the pedal to the metal. In your just all your years of experience, is that like a trait teams either have or don't have, the ability to put the throttle down and just take a team's will to live and end them in that way versus teams that do what Carolina has done these past couple games?
Yeah, I think it's very much a personality. It's a player personality, not a coaching personality. But I mean, you talk about Hansbrough. Hansbrough just step on your neck. He wouldn't care if it was 30 points or 5 points. He's going to play the exact same way regardless. And I think we have a generation that looks to look up at the scoreboard and see what the score is. And that can sometimes take a play or two off when all of a sudden you find out you're up 8 to 10 points. It's just different for different teams. And, there are teams around the country. I think of Houston. Houston's going to just play hard every single possession regardless. UConn's the same way. I don't think they look at the score. And that's one of those things Coach Williams taught when he was with Coach Smith, is you don't look at the scoreboard. Sure. People hated that he didn't call timeouts, but he didn't look at the score. He just was so focused on the game, and he wanted the guys to be able to figure it out. But I do think this team probably looks at the clock a little bit too much, looks at the scoreboard just a little bit too much.
And then the other part of my question is the winning time you talked about. Hey, you wish it hadn't gotten to needing to be winning time with game pressure, but it did. Coach, there's been a lot of conversation about Carolina's lack of a defined lead guard right now. Is it Kyan? Is it Seth? Is it Derek Dixon? Where are we at with that? And I'm curious. I literally thought this in real time as Carolina had those turnovers, the first of which was Kyan Evans trying to split the defense and just lost it out of bounds. Maybe a foul should be called, but you're not going to get that on the road late in the game. I think the next one right after that was Caleb slipped or traveled or something, if my memory serves correct. Is that a moment where the lack of a Joel Berry, the lack of a Ty Lawson, the lack of a Ray Feltner, Ed Cota really rears its ugly head because you don't have that floor general taking care of the ball in those critical final possessions?
Yeah, I think we've talked about the depth there, and from game to game, it seems like it's somebody different. And it sounds like it's a wonderful thing as a coach, and it's a good thing. But it's also a bad thing when it does get to the end of the game and who's going to handle the ball, who's going to organize, who's going to set up that last possession. Who's it going to be? And I don't think it's still established yet. And I still think it has time. And I love both. I love both Kyan and Derek. But we've got to find who that guy is going to be every single night at the end of the game. Again, not who starts, but who finishes. But I really feel like it has to be the same guy finishing. I don't like when it's somebody different from night to night.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like that old football adage: if you've got two quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterback. It kind of applies here as well. All right, Coach. The fourth and final thing in the Four Corners preview is this. I almost said Stanford. Cal does not get to the line a ton, 22.6 attempts a game, but they are elite when they get there, Coach. 79.4% as a team. They are third in all of Division I in free throw shooting. Now, the good news for the Tar Heels is that they are very good at defending without fouling. They're also holding teams, because of that, it tracks then that they are holding teams to not doing great in terms of how many free throw attempts they have per game. In fact, Carolina is 19th nationally, committing 14.8 fouls a game, and their opponents, they are 18th nationally, shooting only 15.4 free throws per game. So, Coach, yes, Cal doesn't shoot 25 a game like Stanford does, but they do shoot 22 and they hit them at the third best clip in the nation. So I'm really watching to see, can Carolina, you talked about, oh my goodness, one of the biggest demarcation points in the game against Stanford was that first 14 minutes. The Cardinal took 2 free throw attempts. And then in the final 6 minutes that you talked about, they had 11 more. So that was a big part of them being able to score a bunch down the stretch. What happens that leads to moments like that where you've been really doing a great job defending without fouling, and then suddenly it's a parade to the free throw line? How does that happen?
It's a bad question for a coach because I want to say bad things about officials sometimes. But I mean, there did seem to be some questionable stuff. And, playing on the West Coast, I didn't recognize the officials as much as I would normally do for home games. I do think it has to do with a sense of urgency switch. So all of a sudden, the sense of urgency comes on Stanford because all of a sudden you're down 8 to 10 points. Now you see them attacking more. You see them being more aggressive. You see them getting in more advantage situations. And then the calls happen maybe in a way that they didn't happen the first 14 minutes.
And then you've got to adjust how because if the game's being refereed differently, then you've got to adjust how you're defending, similar to an umpire adjusting his strike zone. You as a pitcher have to figure that out and work within that. So be interested to see how Carolina handles that on Saturday against Cal. And that's where we want to go next. We want to get to know the Golden Bears. It doesn't seem like they have an Okore or a Boopy Miller, but you know what? It hasn't mattered because if it's a guard, they've gone off on the Tar Heels lately. So we'll get to know the Golden Bears, get the game all set up for you. Coming up to wrap the show in just a second. North Carolina visiting the Cal Golden Bears tomorrow, Saturday, January 17th in Berkeley at Haas Pavilion, 4 p.m. Eastern time. This one will be on the ACC network. As we record, the FanDuel line isn't out yet, but Ken Palm favors Carolina by 3. Torvik favors Carolina by 4. Coach, the first place I want to go is, obviously, this is the first trip for the Tar Heels out west since these two schools have joined the conference. Last year, they came to Chapel Hill. We talked about it several times this week, but there has only been one team in this first season plus that has swept this West Coast swing. That was Wake last year. Duke obviously has the chance to do that Saturday because they beat Cal on Wednesday night. Carolina obviously doesn't because they lost to Stanford. But Coach, what I'm curious about is when you're on a road trip like this, a lot of times in a multi-team event, you just play day after day after day. But this is a weird one where you play Wednesday, you got Thursday, you got Friday, where you're wallowing in the misery of having lost Wednesday night before your game on Saturday afternoon. What are you as a staff wanting to see happen in that 48 hours between games?
Yeah, there's routine, and you want to stay with routine as much as possible so the guys know exactly what's going on. So there's a certain time for film, certain time to eat, certain time for rehab, certain time for school. I know people are going to laugh. They actually still go into class, and they're still got to do some stuff like that. But on a 2-day trip like this in California, you've got a lot of guys that have spent time all over this country. Obviously, guys who have played in the NBA that are on staff, they should have some fun. There's got to be something where and not necessarily a movie night. I think you're just sitting around. You could do that in the hotel, but sure. Get them bowling, get them out doing something, get them shopping in a mall, get them walking around a little bit, not a lot, but doing something. Is there something out there that those guys who have traveled the whole country, something special, a special restaurant, a special experience, do something that's a little bit out just to get their minds off of what happened on Wednesday night. I don't think you want to just continue to harp on it, but you've got to be able to, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we need to work on. Let's go have some fun tonight and try to forget about things for a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting how that can be a bit of a brain reset. Like just the idea of just having fun and being bros together in that regard can just say, hey, like, forget that. It's almost like when you're studying for a test or something. If you just stay in it, you get brain fog. Sometimes you just need to pull away and let your brain just process and do things. And yeah, I like that. I think that can be a really healthy moment for the Tar Heels to get ready for this game. All time, this will be the 7th meeting between the Tar Heels and Golden Bears. Carolina leads the series 5-1. Carolina won at home last year, 79-53. But the most recent matchup before that, you go all the way back to December of 1998. That was the one loss in this series. Coach, this makes me feel old. I don't know if you feel the same, but Mark Madsen is the head coach of Cal, which is funny because he played at Coach. Where did Mark Madsen play his college ball?
I believe he was a Stanford Cardinal.
He was a Stanford Cardinal. I think he would have probably gotten the job after Coach Hass, but the timing was just weird with that. And so he actually wound up going to Cal instead of Stanford. I always thought that was funny. This is his third year there in Berkeley. Obviously, they are not ranked Cal in the AP poll. They were picked 16th in the ACC preseason. Coach, as things stand right now, I actually need to update the numbers after they played Duke. I haven't gone back to look at it since that time. Cal is 69th in the net, so this is still a quad one opportunity. Coach, I want to ask you about that because Carolina is now 2-0 at home in ACC play, 0-2 on the road in ACC play, both of which were quad one opportunities that Carolina frittered away. As you now look at a third quad one opportunity on the road in ACC play, is that a narrative you put in front of the guys? Hey, guys, we're 0-2 on the road, that kind of thing? Or is that not a storyline you want to introduce to the team?
I personally don't want to mess with the nets or the net, quad one, quad two. Just hey, we haven't won a conference game on the road. Yes, that's something I would definitely talk about. It's something that they have to put on a resume. They have to be able to prove that they can win away from Chapel Hill. So definitely something I would talk about. And I think this is, if there's as much as a must-win game, we always know the most important game is the next one, regardless of what it is. But I do think this is a really important for the psyche of this team, for the resume and everything else. This is a huge game for them. So they've got to go in. And part of what I didn't say is I do want to get a shoot around in that home arena and be able to get more familiar. We've talked about that in the past too, because this is the first time a lot of those guys, or all these guys have played there. So it's nice to be able to get a little bit of the familiarity with the surroundings.
Yeah, man, that's good. For Cal coming in, I know it's been a rough stretch for the Tar Heels, but it's been even worse for Cal. They started ACC play 12-1. Coach, they are now 1-4 in their 5 ACC games since then, losing 3 straight. Both Virginia schools on the road last weekend, and then obviously Duke on Wednesday night, although they gave Duke a little bit of a push for a while, but ultimately couldn't get it. Their best non-con win was UCLA, by far their best win in non-con play. Their lone ACC win was beat Notre Dame 72-71. So, Coach, this does project as a game that Carolina should win, but we could have said the same about Wake and Stanford in that as well. So right now you want to take absolutely 0-0 for granted. Just a quick word about the personnel, Coach. Justin Pippen is the starting point guard, 6'3", 190 sophomore. Day Ames, 6'2", 190-pound junior. Chris Bell, 6'7", 195 senior. John Camden at the 4, 6'8" senior. Lee Dort at the 5, 6'10" senior. Coming off the bench, you've got a freshman in TT Carr, but then you've got a senior DJ Campbell, a senior Nolan Dorsey, and a senior Milos Illich. I bring all that up, Coach, because you heard me saying senior. 6 of their top 9 in their rotation, Coach, seniors. 1 freshman in their main rotation group, and then a sophomore and a junior. You've got Rydas Petritis, who's been on the shelf, but also another high-level guy that's been working his way back from injury. Coach, this is a veteran team on the road, at home. I know they've not won games of late, but going up against a veteran team, they're going to be able to be locked into hopefully for Cal, hopefully not for Carolina, but gives the Tar Heels some of that same trouble the Heels have been experiencing.
Yeah, that always makes you nervous when you see so much experience, whether it's at Cal or other places, but they're fighting for, this is it. A lot of those guys are not going to play NBA. They may play professionally, but they want to be able to protect their home. And that's a huge game, obviously, having Carolina in their own building.
Oh, man. Okay. So this game coming up again tomorrow afternoon. Coach, any quick prediction on this game here?
I really think that this is going to be the difference. That they've gone through this kind of spell. I think now it's going to wake them up a little bit. I see Carolina winning by 10 at Cal.
That was the exact margin I had. I kid you not. 80-70 Tar Heels was my score for this game. Hopefully it will play out that way. Defense starts with the defense. You said it earlier. Seth Trimble going to be the linchpin in that. We'll see how the Tar Heels do. We will be live after the game here on YouTube. Make sure to be locked in with us. We'd love to see you. And then on Monday, we'll come back. I'm not going to do the weekend whip around the day just because we got to keep trucking here. But Monday, we'll have the wrap up from the weekend whip around and all the other action that's been going on. Big thanks as always to Coach Rob for joining us. His schedule is so bonkers during the basketball season. And so, Coach, so grateful and honored for you to give us some of your time for the show today. Great insight as always. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, do it now so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. Go check out Coach's book, Carolina Basketball School. It's a great read. Going to make you a more informed Tar Heel and basketball fan. If you haven't subscribed to the Locked On Tar Heels Discord or the brand new Everydayers Club, we'd love to see you there. But for now, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow after the game. But until then, peace.